They celebrate, and we are so grateful that all of you are here to celebrate with us. An artist who celebrated music, who celebrated friendship, who celebrated love. Raza. So happy Diwali and happy New Year to all of you. I request you all to please switch off your mobiles, and let's enjoy the moment. There is one person doing the recording. If anyone wants, we share it. So let's just enjoy the evening today. As you must be seeing around you, there are snippets, photographs, letters, pieces that are around on the walls. So this exhibition is basically an exhibition of an archive. An archive holds memories that shape the textures of a search. The Raza Foundation holds the largest archive of the artist Syed Raza in the form of correspondences with artists' friends, art connoisseurs, critics, and a gamut of letters with younger artists, gallerists, institutes, etc. Accompanied with unseen photographs and a repository of newspaper articles, catalogues and essays that forms the fabric of his creative impulsions, constructions and transformations. So the foundation has, I've been going through it, I've been very fortunate. Mr. Vajpayee has allowed me into his archive, and I think it is open for people to come and research. And there is so much that one can research and unearth from it. A complete new history, which is part of which is already there by historians and a lot of critiques. But these are moments, these are those subtle emotions which a critique or a historian may not find important. Like, for example, his search and his love for a certain poetry or a certain book that he recommends and that he's exchanged with Krishan Khanna, and they've actually discussed that. Or a poem that Mr. Vajpayee has written and which became, the subject of his most famous painting, Ma, and the sentence that he's written on the painting, Ma, मैं जब लौट के आऊँगा क्या लाऊँगा. So these are exchanges, these are impressions that come through and from these letters. That was a time when there were no emails, there was no WhatsApp. There were these handwritten letters, handwritten gestures, and you can feel the urge, when it's been a week, and if Raza ji has not heard from Mr. Vajpayee, he would write to him that I've not heard from you, for a week. Is everything okay? So sometimes there are long letters, sometimes they are just short letters inquiring about each other. Constant element that I found in Raza ji was that, with Mr. Vajpayee of course, was he kept asking him about what is happening in India, what is happening with Bhopal. Send me some poetries. I want to know about Indian language, Indian poetry. He was also very keen in supporting young artists. So, and as we all know that, Mr. Vajpayee has taken forward the dream of Raza ji through the Raza Foundation. He does a lot of supportive ventures through the Raza Foundation, where scholarships are given, not just to visual artists, but to poets, to writers, to musicians. And this was the dream of Raza. This is the dream of Raza that one sees through the letters. Sorry, I'm not going to take much time. So, the exhibition Between Form and Space Tracing the Bindu is focusing on 3 people that he exchanged letters with. One is Ashok Vajpayee, the other one is Krishan Khanna, who was a very dear friend. Krishan Khanna, as we all know, was working at a bank, and he left the job and he turned to being a painter. And you see those exchanges in the letter where Raza is telling him that yes, this is the kind of painting you must do, or moving in a certain direction of abstraction or figuration, or looking at some artist, their museum visits, their exhibitions. You see these correspondences, this entire exchange. And of course with Janine, who he married, and the exchanges, the letter exchanges are just for 1 year, 1954. I'll be reading just one or two. So that is the focus of the exhibition, along with Raza's own writings. There are 2 diaries that he maintained, and he's written a lot on his own practice. Like he's written on the Black Bindu, on Genesis, on form. These are all processes that led to his forming the Bindu. So all of that is part of the exhibition. Now, of course, this is not the final exhibition layout and display. It's because of the performance I had to omit certain elements, like actual letters are going to be displayed, facsimile reproductions, of course, not the originals one, the diaries, the newspaper articles that I've displayed, reproducing them in a book form. So please come and have a look to enjoy the show completely. Today we're going to be celebrating Raza, we're going to be reading some letters, and of course we're going to then enjoy with music, something that Raza himself really admired. So thank you all for coming here, and I'll invite Mr. Ashok Vajpayee to say a few things and read a few letters.
My friends, this is Raza's 100th year and my 83rd year. So I'm 17 years younger than him. And our relationship started when I came to Bombay from Bhopal, and he was exhibiting here, and I invited him to Bhopal, which was the capital of his home state. And next year, that is 79, he came to Bhopal with an exhibition. This was the first ever one-man exhibition of Raza in his home state. It had never happened before. And we honored him on behalf of the state government. And I discovered, to my most pleasant surprise, that he was deeply interested in poetry, and that too in Hindi poetry. I remain a Hindi poet, and that was one. The second thing was he was exposed to Dhrupad, he was exposed to classical dance. He had not seen all this before. He was completely overwhelmed. And then I discovered that here was a man who was not just a painter. As many of you would know, he was a great giver. He got whatever he did from the world, but he returned to the world many times more. And he was particularly concerned about the younger artists, that we should do something. That's how the foundation was created in 2002. And I had to spend 3 quarrelsome evenings with him to sign the document, because he had an ethical objection. Objection was that I provide the money and I call the foundation after myself. Why should it be called Raza Foundation? Why can't it be? Now I tried to argue with him that you are a great figure, you are an iconic figure. If we have your name in the foundation, it will become a brand. Otherwise, if we call it Foundation for the Arts and things of that kind, there are several such organizations that will never take off. On the 3rd day, and the next morning I have to leave, and I have to get his signature on the registration document. I think more under emotional pressure, more under emotional blackmail by me in a certain sense, then fully convinced, he signed. And we, over the years, we have been writing to each other. When I retired from civil service, then he said, "Kya ab to aap fursat mein hain?" He was a trilingual man. He used to speak to anybody from the States and Britain, etc., in English, or the French in French, and anybody who rang up from India, whatever may be his or her language, he would speak to him in Hindi. And what surprised me, that his Hindi was incredibly clean, very idiomatic, and he was a wonderful letter writer. I mean, you see, his handwriting was wonderful. These are his own sort of writings, and you will see that. So, one of my jobs became to carry books of new poetry published in Hindi and whichever other languages translated into Hindi or English. So I used to carry a bag full of books and became part of his. And whatever he liked, he would note down in his diary. So his diary, when you finally see it, has entries in French, entries in English, entries in Sanskrit, and entries in Hindi. So there was any single paper ever sent to him by anybody was retained by him. So we have something like 40,000 letters to and fro. They are by all kinds of people, there are people, artists. We have published some in 4 books. One, the largest number of correspondences between Raza and Krishan Khanna. Incidentally, when Krishan Khanna resigned from the bank, the 3 persons waiting outside the bank to greet him on this courageous decision was Hussain, Gaitonde, and Tayyab Mehta. And the word has gone to Raza. So Raza celebrated that evening in his Paris chamber by holding some kind of a party. So they were it was an amazing group of people. Each one developed his or her own style. There is nothing common between, let's say, Krishan Khanna and Hussain and Tayyab and Akbar Padamsi and Ram Kumar and Pal Chabda and Raza. But they were all together. And they were deeply concerned with each other. They were very warmly interested in each other, etc. So we have an enormous number of letters. And Pal Chabda, in his characteristic style, used to call this group geezers, which is a medieval English word. So that we have published a collection of those letters called geezers. We have published a collection of my letters with him and his letters to me called Maitri. There is a 3rd volume that was published between Krishan Khanna and Raza, which is called My Dear. And the 4th one, his letters to who was going to be his wife and life companion later, Janeen Munshila. Now, what is surprising about Janeen Munshila letters, it surprised me also. Here is a person who did not even take any educational degree after high school. And this is high school which he must have passed in 40s, early 40s. And this is 1950. He goes to France. And he writes letters. These are seductive letters. They are letters quoting her and trying to draw her attention and this, that, and the other. Incidentally, it's called I'll Bring My Time With Me. That's the title I have given you, because this was one of the things. Now, there is both a confidence in it, I'll bring my time with me, and second is that art brings its own time. It doesn't have to wait for other time, etc. What is happening in these letters? Raza is quoting Baudelaire, Paul Weller, André Gide, etc., which even to me was extremely surprising. But there we are. Since I knew him very well and since I have been engaged with him, I persuaded him to come to India. It took a hell out of me. But when he came to India, he lived here for 5.5 years. So I will just read out small extracts from him to me. There are other reasons for me to feel happy. Kalidas Samman to Subramanian whose work I do appreciate greatly. I am also happy that Bhupen is getting the appreciation he deserves. The silent guy will have his day too. 1982 is a great year of Indian art, and our painters' responsibilities are greater than ever before. I believe it is only the quality of our pointed work that matters ultimately, and we will have to be writing to me from Gorbio. Gorbio is a small village in south of France, it's part of the French Riviera, very close to Nice and Cannes and Antibes, etc. Raza writes to me on 21st May 1985. Oh no, yes. यहाँ से 12-14 जून तक गॉर्बियो जाने का इरादा है। अवेन्यू समारोह में भी पीटर ब्रुक का महाभारत और पंडित कुमार गंधर्व को सुनने की इच्छा है। गॉर्बियो अवेन्यू से 250 किलोमीटर है, पर आना हो सकेगा। अगर हम 7 जुलाई को 1 या 2 दिन के लिए कार से आ सकें तो आप हमारे साथ गॉर्बियो ज़रूर आइए। ये सब आप जब यहाँ आएंगे तब किया जा सकता है। उम्मीद है इस बार रश्मि भी आनी, दैट्स माय वाइफ। Political or social. By operation, I was thinking of a surgical operation. I wrote Andolan Prachalan Aswabhavik, maybe Kranti and Shallikriya are the right words. So, you know, he would also have this, that sometimes he'll give me a ring and say, I want to title. After about 1980, he started titling most of his works in Hindi. And then he'll think of a title and give me a trunk call and ask me whether this is what he thinks it means, and whether this will be the best word, or how to spell and things of that kind. So he was very concerned. And here was one man who gave, I think he had about nearly 100 canvases on which he has inscribed words. These are lines from Upanishad, Vedic lines, medieval poets, Tulsidas, Kabir, Sur, Bira, Khalid, Mir, Faiz, Muktibodh, Agge, Kedarnath Singh, even me. Maa laut kar jab aunga kya launga is a line from my poem. So he would inscribe. And when I asked him, okay, what is the relationship between this and your work? He said, there is no relationship intended. I want to give word its own individual status, so that two coexist. And at a deeper level, perhaps a relationship will be revealed. But I am not wanting words either to illustrate my painting or painting to illustrate poetry. Now, this was a truly artistic respect for the other arts. What you're going to listen to, thus I was very fond of musicals apart from poetry. And there are several musical concerts which took place in his studio in Paris. And one such concert was by the late Ustad Fariduddin Khan Dagar, Ziafaruddin Dagar, who was the uncle and guru of Ustad Bahauddin Dagar, who will be performing on the Rudraveena. It so happened that at least twice Bahauddin has performed in Raza's studio in Delhi with only two of us as listeners, Raza and I. And Rudra Veena, as you know, is a difficult instrument. It's also an instrument which strains your ears. The ears have to be trained to listen to it because the sounds are so soft. I used to tease Ustad Zia Faruddin Daga, Zia Moinuddin Daga Sahab, who was the father of Bahauddin, that you play silence. It is difficult to hear silence because we have lost the capacity to hear silence. So, ladies and gentlemen, as a tribute to Raza this evening, this is his 100th year, which will culminate next February in a major exhibition, the largest ever exhibition of Raza in Centre de Pompidou, Paris. Nearly 100 works have been shown. In January, we have a festival of new choreographies based on Raza's, and they include classical dancers and modern dancers. They will be in modern style, but also, and the idea incidentally was first suggested by Ustad Devi, who unfortunately died. He was a great friend of ours, and he suggested that he wanted to do something. So I said, why not we do a festival? So we are doing a festival, 3 days. And
focus and Madhu Apsaraji, so the sound, very difficult to sound the mic that we have, so we had great help from there. And thanks to the foundation also.
To Raza in his 100th year, a man who loved many things, including wine and women, but also loved poetry, music, and a certain purity and nobility of soul. A very generous man, a very indulgent man, a man who lived life lustily unto his end. We have an incomplete canvas which he left, and after which he could not paint. Raza Foundation during his lifetime was never allowed to do anything in his name because he thought he was a trustee, and therefore a trustee cannot make any personal use of the property and the monies of the trust. It's only after he died that we started using his name and doing things in his name, which is not exactly in keeping with his wishes, but we thought that we could take the plunge. We have organized, in the centenary year, we have published a biography of Raza done by Yashodhara Lal. Incidentally, Raza was very much a Bombay artist. That he came and spent his last days in Delhi was primarily due to the fact I could not have shifted to Bombay. Otherwise, Bombay was his hometown in terms of art. He came here as a raw, young, immature painter, and he groomed himself here. It is from here that he left for France and lived there for 60 years. So Raza was very much a Bombay person. And so what we had done during the 100th year, there have been two major exhibitions already organized, one by the Jahangir Nicholson Arts Foundation in the other part of the museum, and the second one was done by Kiran Nadar Museum, excellently curated by Robina Karoli. Both these exhibitions were done by independent foundations. We supported. As for us, we have been organizing. This is the second from his archives. First one was done curated by Akhilesh in Delhi. This is the second one, and we hope that several such, because then you come to know what happened, how an artist is made, how is he formed, what happens to him, his problems, his concerns, his anxieties. And Raza was a man full of anxiety and worry about his country. Although he lived there, he started coming here at least once in a year for many years. And there are many friends here. Shanti Chopra is here. Art Musings have been supporting us in many of our efforts, and there have been many others. And we did an exhibition of 100 young artists of India. We did an exhibition of 30 tribal artists of India. We are doing an exhibition at the moment in the India International Center of about 40 grown artists belong only to two districts of Madhya Pradesh, one of them Mandla. Mandla is the place where he is buried next to his father's grave, and Mandla is the place where the district administration, quite unexpectedly, did a gallery in his name. So there is a Raza gallery in Mandla, and we do a lot many things for younger people. Idea is to carry on the vision of Raza, that others constitute yourself. Thank you very much for coming and listening to this wonderful recital. There are at least 2 or 3 Raza bodies in the audience. One is, of course, Bhakti himself, but the other one is where is Gattani? Sheetal Gattani. Third one is Smriti Dikshit. They're all, we have stopped the awards because now art is flourishing, so awards don't matter very much. So we now do many things. And there is a biography, as I told you, of then Marathi translation is also coming very soon from the popular percussion. So, as a tribute to Raza, this has been a wonderful evening, and thank you very much for coming. Continue to take interest in Raza, and more importantly, continue to take interest in Drupad, which was what he liked, and in younger actors. Thank you.